She dialed the wrong number. By morning, the hospital asked the CEO to come now. The phone rang at 2:17 a.m., slicing through the quiet like a blade. Ethan Rowe stared at the ceiling for a full second before reaching for it. He was trained not to answer unknown numbers after midnight, trained by years of boardroom paranoia, leaked deals, and people who wanted something he wasn't willing to give. But insomnia had him half awake already, and something about the persistence of the ringing felt urgent. He accepted the call. Hello. There was breathing on the other end. Ragged, female. I'm sorry, the woman whispered. I must have the wrong number. Ethan frowned. It's 2 in the morning. I know. I was trying to reach my sister. She works nights. I must have misdialed. Her voice trembled, thin as glass stretched too far. Ethan sighed, irritation rising. You did. I'm sorry, she repeated. Then, after a pause, can you stay on the line for just a minute? No, he said automatically. But she spoke over him. Please, I'm in a hospital waiting room and they won't tell me anything yet. I don't want to be alone for one more minute. Ethan closed his eyes. He didn't know why he didn't hang up. He should have. Instead, he said, which hospital? Street. Ann's, she replied. Downtown. That gave him pause. Street. Ann's was one of the hospitals under the umbrella of Rowe Health Systems, the nonprofit healthcare arm quietly owned by his family trust. He rarely thought about individual facilities. They were dots on spreadsheets, quarterly reports, risk assessments. I can't help you, he said. You should call your sister. I will, she said quickly. Thank you for answering. I won't keep you. Her breath hitched. My name is Mara. Ethan, he said, surprising himself again. There was silence, then a soft, incredulous laugh. Of course it is. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, she said. It's just, never mind. Another pause. Then she whispered, they said he's stable. But they said that word like it could break if they said it too loudly. Ethan had heard that tone before, in lawyers' voices, in families on the brink of ruin. Who's he? My father. The line crackled. Somewhere in the distance, a cart rattled. An intercom chimed. I should go, Mara said. Thank you for answering, Ethan. I'm sorry again. Before he could respond, the call ended. Ethan lay back, staring at the dark. He told himself it was nothing. A wrong number. A coincidence. Yet the unease stayed with him, pressing against his ribs like a hand. He slept badly, dreamed of fluorescent lights and unreadable charts. At 7:42 a.m., his assistant called. Good morning, Mr. Rowe, Julia said, voice unusually tight. Street. Ann's hospital is requesting your presence. Immediately, Ethan sat upright, requesting, or ordering, they didn't specify, but the board liaison is already on site. And, the chief of medicine asked personally. For what? Ethan demanded. They said there's been a serious incident overnight. One involving patient intake procedures and emergency response protocols. Ethan swung his legs out of bed. I'll be there in 30. Street. Anne smelled like antiseptic and old coffee. Ethan hated hospitals, not because of fear, but because they reminded him how little money could ultimately control. In the executive conference room, faces turned toward him as he entered. The chief of medicine, Drive, Helen Ruiz, stood by the window, arms crossed. 2 compliance officers sat stiffly at the table. And at the far end, pale and exhausted, sat a woman with dark hair pulled into a loose knot. Mara. Their eyes met. She froze. Ethan stopped mid-step. Doctor. Ruiz cleared her throat. Mr. Rowe, thank you for coming so quickly. Ethan didn't sit. Why? Is she here? Mara stood abruptly. You're the CEO. Yes, he said, still staring at her. Apparently. Her mouth opened, then closed. I dialed the wrong number. So you said, he replied. Doctor. Ruiz looked between them. You two know each other. Barely, Ethan said. Mara let out a shaky breath. I called him by accident last night. From the waiting room. Doctor. Ruiz's expression tightened. That explains part of it. Explains what? Ethan asked. Doctor. Ruiz gestured to a file on the table. Mara's father, Thomas Hale, was admitted at 1:36 a.m. He collapsed at home. Paramedics brought him in with chest pain, hypotension, and neurological symptoms. Mara's hands clenched. They told me it was a stroke. It was, Doctor. Ruiz confirmed, but it was also something else. She slid the file toward Ethan. Mr. Hale had been discharged from this same hospital 2 days earlier. Ethan flipped through the pages, his jaw tightening. He presented with similar symptoms then, drive. Ruiz continued, but his imaging was misread. His labs were flagged but not escalated. He was sent home. Mara's voice cracked. They told us it was anxiety. Ethan looked up sharply. Doctor. Ruiz nodded. By the time he came back last night, the damage was extensive. He survived surgery, but he may not recover fully. The room went quiet. In the incident, Ethan asked slowly. Doctor. Ruiz folded her hands. The incident is that the nurse who finally pushed for escalation last night did so because of a phone call. Mara looked at Ethan, eyes wide. The nurse overheard Mara speaking on the phone in the waiting room, drive. Ruiz said. She heard Mara say, he runs the hospitals. Ethan felt a chill. She didn't know that. I didn't, Mara said quickly. I was crying. I don't even remember what I said. Doctor. Ruiz continued. The nurse assumed you were being contacted. She bypassed the on-call resident and contacted the attending directly. That decision likely saved Mr. Hale's life. One of the compliance officers spoke, which raises concerns about why escalation only occurred under the assumption of executive involvement. Ethan closed the file. So you called me here, he said, because a man nearly died due to systemic failure, and lived because someone thought I was watching. Yes, drive, Ruiz said evenly, and because we need to know how you want to proceed. Ethan looked at Mara. She looked smaller in the daylight, wrapped in borrowed calm that threatened to unravel at any second. My father didn't need a CEO, she said quietly. He needed someone to listen. Ethan swallowed. He had built an empire on efficiency, on metrics, on distance. He had told himself that structure saved lives. That oversight was enough. He was wrong. I want a full audit, Ethan said, of St. Anne's intake procedures, of diagnostic escalation protocols, of every discharge in the last 6 months that involved flagged labs. The compliance officers exchanged looks. And, he continued, I want this hospital's reporting metrics rewritten. No one should need to believe I'm on the other end of a phone call to do the right thing. Doctor. Ruiz nodded slowly. That will cause disruption. Good, Ethan said. He turned to Mara. How's your father? In recovery, she said. They're monitoring him. I'm sorry, Ethan said, and meant it in a way apologies rarely deserved. She studied him. I didn't call you because of who you are. I know, he said. That's why this matters. Later, as Ethan walked the hallway toward the ICU, the hum of machines filling the air, he realized something unsettling. For years, people had called him with the right number, seeking power, leverage, protection. But the call that finally changed something had been a mistake, and he wondered how many others never reached anyone at all.